Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our definition, looking for the stabilizing syllability, the sequence of letters, what is sensorality. Again, refreshing, we're looking for the right question to ask to align our intuition. That intuition, right, once you get that in the right order, the linguistics will kind of just fall out and it'll produce our proof and it'll stabilize sensorality. And so another kind of consideration, I keep saying we're looking for the completeness or this demonstration of completeness. But right, what are we completing? Because then we also have, right, we're demonstrating the incompleteness theorem. And so we're back to this differentiation between sensorality, the concept, censorship or filtration being different from sentient objects or sentient beings and inanimate objects. Right? I have senses, S-E-N-S-E. I have sensuality, S-E-N-S-U-A-L-I-T-Y. I have sensation with an S. So again, the motivation for censorship, right? If you see that word out in the wild, it'll be spelled with a C. But C is different than S, and all of our sentience starts with an S. So censorship that's spelled with a C conceptually is representing what should be spelled with an S, and vice versa, right? When you go and type in your washing machine or your microwave and it says sensor with an S, right? It's not a sensor. It doesn't have sense, S-E-N-S-E. So that is the differentiation that's already made within fundamental ontology. And ontology is the way you talk about being. I just watched a brief episode with, it was on YouTube on the Hoover Institute's YouTube channel. It was just titled something to the effect of why does 2 plus 2 equal 4? Again, they open up talking about the consistency of conceptualization. But they say ontology is being. No, existence is. And then you describe that, right? All language is derivative from existence, more specifically from movement. And so ontology is generalized vocabulary. Ontology is the correct way to discuss a given phenomenon, a given section of science, a given domain of research. And so ontology is not being, existence is, and ontology is how you describe the world. And so, but back to sensorality, the differentiation, that is the presence, that the evidence that already exists. Censorship, when you see it spelled with a C, you're conceptually representing censorship with an S, right? Because you choose that. Algorithms, when you choose to sort nudity or sort for a title on YouTube or sort through or filter through photos, you sort by a date. Those are all choices, right? And so then you're using a computer, you're interfacing with an inanimate object, hard drives, different molecules put together in the form of a computer. And so censorship with a C is any filtration done by inanimate objects, and filtration done by choice by sentient beings is censorship with an S. So we're trying to prove that by showing the direct iteration of what is sensorality and showing the pairing of those syllables and how they've differentiated out into the world. We are finding the logical roots of a concept. And so, but the big kind of intuitive step that I made again this morning or yesterday was this dichotomy between completeness, right? Sensorality with a C is what is completable, right? It has the diction or the differentiation within language that can be complete, right? All objects that exist in 3 dimensions have their black bodies. They have temperature, and then temperature exchange radiation with other objects in the world. And so it's all dynamic. Things change. You always have temperature, and you always will radiate. And so I'm trying to put all of these things together, not even really into the theorems yet. But meaning the definition of sensorality with an S is open. It won't be completed. We are demonstrating the incompleteness of sensorality with an S, and we're showing the completeness of sensorality with a C. And that border, that boundary right between the two, again, should produce some very poignant linguistical result, which we've demonstrated with speciality. We know it's out there. I'm just continuing to do it from first principle because I do not have constitutional rights. But trying to get our big intuitions and concepts in the right place, and then the language will follow, making the proof trivial. But the big thing that I realized again is like we're demonstrating the incompleteness of sensorality with an S while simultaneously demonstrating the completeness of sensorality with a C. I know I've said it, but again, it's very clear the intuitive jumps or steps of the proof that happen each day and throughout the day. And so, what is the theme of order? What is the order of theme? Again, we've proven it's undeniable. Thematics is the basis of mathematics. The MA is just functioning as a prefix. And obviously, thematics is an expanded form of theme. And so we derived order, right? We have derived concepts at this point. And so, what is theme to order and what is order to theme? What is a presentation to a performance? A performance is a show. All right, and presentation again is another form of this sensation. Sensorality limits learning. Dichotomy is a consequence of chronology. Right, one thing existed that differentiated and that stabilized into two things, and that's why all natural number systems are one, two, many. That's why it's natural when you're a kid. You go, "What's 2 times 2? 4. What's 2 times 4? 8." And you'll naturally, every kid has done that, where you just, for whatever reason, you start multiplying 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. It's because it's the most relevant stabilized dynamic. That's why you have all the emergence of yin, yang, left, right, up, down, forward, backward. They come in pairs. And so, that dichotomy is, again, the result of these stabilized phase changes. And we live in 3 dimensions. That's the many. Right? All indigenous tribes will have one to many counting systems. We discussed the difference between ontology and, I just have what is ontology to understanding. And that was a direct reference or pulled out of the discussion of the Hoover Institute video. And so ontology describes existence. Temperature is essential. Right, we logically renormalized last time, or a couple episodes ago. Speciality is special with an ITY, and it's evidenced by especially, right, the word out in the wild. And then sensorality is essentiality, and that's out in the wild as essentially. So what is the relationship of especially and essentially? Temperature is essential. Thermality is essential. Sensorality demonstrates incompleteness. Sensorality is pleatness. Sensorality is pleatality. Sensorality pleads. Sensorality leads. Leading opposes following. Trailing is following. Sensorality is replete. Replete, replenish. Sensorality replenishes. And so, again, this replete and replenish, another good example of we're getting to where the differentiation logically is going to come from a suffix, right? Suffixes are at the end of words. And the openness, sensorality, that letter Y soundy is like preserves that generality. Sensorality replenishes. Many is plentiful. Plentiful is abundant. Sensorality is abundance. Abundance abounds. Sensorality is abounding. Bounding is limiting. What is sensing to condensing? If someone is dense, what are they? All right, they're not open to change, right? They're not interacting, they're not learning. They're stuck in their ways, they're dense. So if someone is dense, they are not, densing is inversely proportional to sensing. You have to be open to the world around you to learn and to, again, we're just looking, again, words contain meaning. Words have meaning, and we're just lining up those meanings. What is sense to tense? What is dense to tense, right? If you're more dense of a person, you're more tense. Tension is tight. Release is relief. Sensorality is disbelief. Disbelief is dumbfounded. So now, again, as negating prefix, right, respect is a form of speciality, spec. And dis, right, it has like dimension, that DI, it introduces the stabilized unit 2 thing, but it also introduces this S for, like, again, sensorality is not dissensorality, right? We just made it, sensorality is sensorality, and then we just double negated that. Sensorality is not dissensorality. So logically, we're not changing anything. Linguistically, we're adding new letters. And so somehow through this iteration process, again, we're going to produce a new word form. And so, and then we could probably, again, immediately generalize that of this why, right? Respect, disrespect, where you don't have misrespect or unrespect. Again, there is logical function to the different prefixes, but dis seems to be, I don't know, it introduces that stabilize the di like dimension, and it also has the s in there. And again, the S and the C, again, we're showing some sort of iteration with that, trying to pull all of these concepts into one thing. And again, it's inevitable. I'm just showing you as many steps along the way as possible. My rights continue to be violated. It is profound and extensive stress. I have nowhere to preserve the manuscripts, and I simply, again, don't have a place to eat, sleep, and work confidently, comfortably, and regularly. So thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.